With the boom of the internet and the ever-increasing capabilities of technology, companies have the ability to collect mass amounts of data on users. In his book, Data and Goliath, Bruce Schneier details the vulnerabilities that exist and lays out his own recommendations to reform government surveillance programs in order to protect individual privacy. After 9/11, most of us accepted the government taking free rein to conduct mass surveillance with the belief that we were giving up our privacy in exchange for security. What we failed to understand at the time is that mass surveillance is inherently ineffective at catching terrorists. By putting surveillance ahead of security, the NSA ensures the insecurity of us all. New technologies not covered by the decades-year-old Privacy Act generate new questions and concerns, such as the federal government's failure to provide guidance on technologies that allow civilian agencies to track individuals and retain data about them by default. Schneier argues for more transparency from government, more and better oversight, the protection of whistleblowers, and that they fix almost all vulnerabilities, among other suggestions. I agree with Schneier that what the United States needs is an independent data protection agency that conducts data collection and usage audits of corporations and governments. Most of his suggestions relating to regulation are hopeful but not realistic, and in my eyes land on the extremist side of the security spectrum. Laws may determine what methods of surveillance are legal, but technologies determine which are possible. What we have to decide is whether we want to develop an information infrastructure that is vulnerable to all attackers or one that is secure for all users. And the government is not going to sacrifice their treasure trove of data and surveillance capabilities for the privacy rights of Americans. Even if stricter regulations were put into place, NSA's own documents note that the agency broke its own privacy rules 2,776 times in 12 months, from 2011 to 2012. Governments don't conduct surveillance, censorship, and control operations. They are supported by a vast public-private surveillance partnership. So by limiting the data of corporations, we are also limiting the pool of information the NSA and other government agencies can tap into. Schneier also believes the current business model should be revamped and laws should be put into place to limit the ability of corporations to collect data outside of what is necessary. I agree that people should be entitled to know what data is being collected about them, what data is being archived about them, and how data about them is being used. And in a world that combines an international internet with country-specific laws, we need to know where data about us is being stored. Since Data and Goliath was published in 2015, information privacy has gained momentum as a significant issue in state legislation. Several states have enacted laws to require online privacy policies and notices, among other initiatives. At least 38 states introduced more than 160 consumer privacy-related bills in 2021. Many websites and devices now have privacy and security management information available to consumers, but it is buried deep and can be difficult to find. This is why Schneier calls on us consumers to shift our way of thinking about the information we provide to companies and place a higher value on our private information. Since the release of the Snowden documents, a spotlight has been shown on the inner workings of government and corporate surveillance practices that has helped to educate consumers of their vulnerabilities and motivate them to incite change with their local governments and personal internet usage. While there's still a long way to go with corporate and federal legislation, there are some useful suggestions Schneier provides, along with others that are unrealistic for the average internet user. Among the feasible solutions are to take notice of the surveillance that is constantly taking place in our daily lives. Through some quick research on privacy protection, I was able to remove my information that was collected from roughly 80 third-party apps dating back to 2008. I was also able to disable significant location tracking on my iPhone. Basic encryption software is fairly easy to download and protects users from both malware and the NSA. With a little effort on our part, we can take simple steps to protect our private information from being shared and collected by both corporations and the government. It is hard to place blame on companies and the government for collecting our data when we fail to take basic steps to protect ourselves and are so willing to divulge personal data when prompted. When we gain security, there will be trade-offs. We have to determine if it is worth the trade-off. In many instances, the operation of e-commerce and the convenience it has provided consumers is worth our current perception of the security risks. The only way to make sure our perception of our risks is accurate is to educate ourselves on who has access to our private information and what are they using it for.